but I'm hoping to have an opportunity for some Q&A at the end. And I am grateful for the opportunity to dive into this theme as the fourth and final class in this lecture series, and we appreciate people coming out at this time and participating with us, with Rabbi Guido twice and with Rabbi Lauren once. You all have some texts in front of you, and I just want to begin by telling you something that I guess I would characterize as TMI, which is too much information. Something that I'm not sure that I've actually ever shared publicly about what was going on with me the morning of October 7th. So, Friday night was the end of the Sukkot week, as we remember. And for one of the meals in our sukkah, I forget which one it was, maybe it was Wednesday, we ordered in, I don't want to say the name of the place, but a very high-end kosher fish place. And they had these incredible things called a sushi cake. Have you ever had a sushi cake? I'm not going to say where it came from, but it was a delicious sushi cake, not too far from here. And we didn't finish the sushi cake on whatever night, Sukkot, we had hosted with that meal. And so Friday night, I guess I came home from wherever, and I'm eating some of this leftover sushi cake. This is awesome. And my wife looked at me and said, I don't know if that's still good. I said, it tastes pretty good to me. So I enjoyed the sushi cake on Friday night, leftover. About 1 a.m, I was in the bathroom, and then again at 2 a.m. and 3 a.m, and I didn't check my phone. And I was not well. I was really not well. I was dehydrated, I was nauseous, I had zero energy, I could barely move. So in the morning, it became clear what was going on. Or not became clear, but the news was there. Whatever news reports were coming at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And I had already made the mental decision that even though I had written a sermon for Yisker, and I knew I had a wonderful partner who would understand that I could barely get out of bed. By my wonderful partner, I don't mean Lauren, I mean Rabbi Guido. And I was going to mention to him that, like, I'm just not well. I think you're going to have to run the service. I can barely move. And I saw what was going on, and my wife said, you can't get out of bed. And I said, I need to go to shul. There is something awful happening, and I have to be in shul. If what's going on in Israel is being dealt with, however it's being dealt with by our brothers and sisters there, the least I can do is to get out of bed and go to shul. And so I did, and it took every fiber of my physical strength to get myself dressed and cleaned up and to get to shul. And I came with some Gatorade and just started to slowly nurse myself. And Rabbi Guido could see that I was, very pale, not only because of the news, but because of how I was feeling physically. And I didn't share the story because, of course, it pales in comparison to the trauma and the tragedy of what was actually happening. But still, I wasn't well. And it wasn't until halfway into the service, I said, Rabbi Guido kept saying, how are you doing? I said, every 20 minutes is a little bit better. So I continued to hydrate, and we got through the service, and we did our best to hold the congregation together with whatever news we had. And I remember doing the Yisker service. At the time, we understood or believed 100 people to have been killed, which in that moment felt unprecedentedly horrific. Little did we know how much worse and unimaginable it would get. And I'm just sharing a little bit of that as we're going to explore the notion of hope, because in some way I think that ability that I was able to summon, to come, I think represents what all of us have summoned in the wake of this new world that we are living in. That we are all rising to levels of strength and stamina and responsiveness and standing up and showing up in ways that I think are beyond what we may have thought we were capable of doing after being hit so hard emotionally. Like sucker punched in the heart, I imagine. And if you're nodding, I imagine you can resonate with that feeling. It was we all were physically ill on that day. And yet, we're here, and yet we're still going to shul, and yet we've all, in our own way, showed up and stood up and have tried to respond to this moment by contributing in ways to make it better. And I just actually learned 2 seconds ago that I'll be returning to Israel on February 4th with the Greater Miami Jewish Federation on one of their solidarity missions, which I was, yes, I know, I just moved my plane ticket, so I'm going to have to move it again. But that's, we're all rising to new levels, and I want to make sure I say this statement because I'm concerned that I may forget to say it, which I think is my overall theology or philosophy about how people overcome things. And over the course of my 23 years as a rabbi, I've had many simchas, many celebrations, many sad ones, and some that are monumentally tragic. Some of them on the personal level, individual level, some of them communally crisis moments, Surfside, Pittsburgh. But when I think of what it really takes to overcome, I think about the individual families. The young mom who was so vibrant and vivacious and succumbed to breast cancer, or the teenage young boy who just went to sleep one night and never woke up, or a young boy who was lost at sea in my former community in Detroit after being on a boating trip with friends and for days was being searched for. I don't have precise wisdom or insight theologically as to how to overcome moments like that. All I know is that I have borne witness to families who have found a way to go on. Or a young dad tragically taken in a car accident. Right here, his parents are here. Daniel Yerushalmi, may his memory be a blessing. So these are the types of moments. We don't have answers. There's any rabbi or theologian or psychiatrist who strives to tell you, well, let me explain to you why this all went down, or the types of things that people say that aren't right, but people say them anyway. I'm not even going to repeat them because I find them theologically problematic. All I know is that I've seen people get through it. I've seen people who had every right to just follow their loved one into the grave, and they don't. And they go on. And they find ways to just put one foot in front of the other and to breathe and to one day find joy and laughter, and dare I say even a measure of happiness and maybe some singing and some dancing. We find a way. And so that's what I have found myself saying to families who ask questions for which there are no answers. I say, all I know is I've seen others overcome, and so I believe it can be done. And these other people aren't stronger than you. They're not better than you. They're not wiser than you. And if they have found a way, I believe that you will too. And I think that in some ways that is in essence, on a communal scale, what it is that we are all experiencing. We're in the presence tonight, as we always are at ATJC with Holocaust survivors. And when I first arrived at this congregation in 2007, of course we had many, many more, and their attitudes and their perspectives were so inspiring and so uplifting and so energizing and so unbelievable that they too were a source of great blessing for me and for this congregation. And I often wondered, how is it that they can just come to shul, tell a joke, laugh a little after what they survived and what they witnessed, and yet they did. And I think we are living through one of those moments now. We are living through one of those moments. 2 Shabbases ago, or I guess not last Shabbos, the Shabbos before, if you may recall, if you were here, if you weren't here, you should have been here, and you can come this coming Shabbos. Don't ever miss it. We had a guest speaker from Israel who was embarking on a beautiful project to heal psychologically, mentally, and physically both civilians and soldiers in a midway place between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. And she said something that I have been thinking since October 7th, but I'm not sure I heard anyone else say until she said it. And it's a simple sentence. It's that since October 7th, Jewish life will never be the same. She said it. I have believed that. I don't know if I'm right. It's just something I feel in my kishkas. It's just never going to be the same. I haven't quite figured out exactly what that means. What is it that will never be the same? What is it about this moment for us that will be different? So I think we're living through a moment. We've lived through them throughout history. We've read about these stories of previous generations, of course, the survivors of the Holocaust, but even before then, who have overcome, who have persevered, who have survived, who have changed and pivoted in ways that they too probably said, Jewish life will never be the same. Jewish life will never be the same after hundreds of years of slavery in Egypt. Jewish life will never be the same after Mordechai and Esther in Persia. Jewish life will never be the same after the destruction of the first temple, after the destruction of the second temple, after the Crusades, after the Inquisition. And this is just another one of those moments where our people are being called and asked to overcome and to rise up. And despite however we're feeling physically, in our guts, or emotionally in our hearts, we're going to find a way to stand up and to show up and to reimagine what this next chapter, this next generations, this next era is going to look like, whether it be in the state of Israel or whether it be for the Jewish people all over the world. We've done it before, many, many times, as a people and as individuals, and I believe we will do it again. You came in just in time for what I'm about to say, which is that since that morning of October 7th, when I was both physically ill and mentally, spiritually, emotionally ill, I was barely functional for a pretty extended period of time. I'm wondering if you could just nod if you were like that too. Just barely functional. We were just taking in so much news. We were in shock. We were in communal trauma. We could barely keep up with what we were reading. We couldn't believe it. And then we were supposed to go on with life and things and whatever else that we had planned to do, and trips and simchas. And I remember we had a parents' weekend at Northwestern a few weeks afterwards, and which was aptly timed because college campuses quickly became challenging places, so we were grateful to go visit our oldest son at Northwestern and deal with what was going on there. And there was a 10-year wedding renewal simcha that I had previously planned for early November. All of these things continued, and I was just barely functional. And then I realized, I'm going to Israel. A group of rabbis put together a trip. When I was already unable to go, Rabbi Guido had gone. In early November, I went 10 days later, or 2 weeks after Rabbi Guido went. And I don't want to speak for him, but I will say from my perspective, I knew I was going to Israel, and in the days leading up to going to Israel, I got worse. Because not only was I devastated from October 7th, but I was pretty terrified. Not physically. I didn't think I was going to get hit by something related to the war. I just was terrified about going to a country that I have been to more times than I can count. Literally, I have no idea how many times I've been to Israel. If you put a gun to my head and said, tell me how many times you've been to Israel, I'm going to shoot you, I would say, just shoot me, I have no idea. It's got to be over 60 or 70 times, and I'm only 51. I was terrified that I was going to a place that I wouldn't recognize, a place that had been absolutely devastated, in trauma, in grieving, in mourning, and I wasn't sure how I was going to process this additional level. And what I found was the opposite. And it's interesting because just this past Monday I was at Moe's with Congressman Richie Torres. Yes, I like to name drop occasionally. If you don't know who Richie Torres is, you're either from Canada or you're not doing enough pro-Israel politics in your personal life. Are you from Canada?
I was there too, I'm from Canada.
Okay, so, no, but you know who he is and you're from Canada. So I was just saying that maybe if you don't know who he is, it might be because you're not involved in U.S. politics. That was not a dig at Canadians. I love Canadians. I taught water skiing in Canada for many years. I love my job. That was my best job ever, teaching water skiing. So anyway, I'm on Monday with you and Richie, and someone had just come back from Israel, and she had this very long face, and I might have greeted her with a little bit of, I don't know, I was in a good mood. There were fresh bagels. There was the passionate pro-Israel politician in the room, and I just said, how was Israel? Expecting her to say something along the lines of what I had experienced in my 2 visits, soon to be 3rd. And she said, I'm in trauma. I'm in PTSD. It was so difficult. I'm a wreck. I haven't slept since I got back. And I didn't, for me, that wasn't my experience. I did not become functional as a human being or as a rabbi until I was in Israel. And then, I don't know, something just switched for me. It might be that it was the first time my body and my heart were in the same place at the same time. I don't think it's only that. I think it was because of the way in which person after person seemed to be responding to this moment with an awareness that this is awful, this is devastating, and we will face this as we have faced challenges in the past. It's what our people have always done, and it's now our turn to do it. Just very matter of fact. That's a gross generalization of all the encounters that I had, but that filled me with a lot of hope. Topic for today, a lot of hope. It wasn't until I really was able to sit with Israelis and to see that they were finding a way, that they were rising to the occasion and doing unbelievable aspects of sacrifice and selflessness and understanding the big picture, and that they were not alone, they had each other. And when I was on the base with the soldiers, eating with them and talking with them, and that was when I really felt we're going to be okay. This is terrible. This is unspeakable. This is our generation's moment. But our generation is no less capable of overcoming what appear to be insurmountable odds and adversaries. They're going to overcome, and we're going to have their back. And just as they all feel called in some way to respond in a very strong and specific way, I came back believing that we all need to be deputized. We all need to be conscripted ourselves in some way. And the more we do, I think the better we will feel. I think that part of the pain that we've been experiencing is this impotence, this feeling of helplessness. And I think the more we do, the better we're going to feel. So that's just some introductory comments on things I wanted to make sure I communicated tonight as we look at some of these texts. Some will skim, some will dive, and if you have questions, just let me know, and I'll try to take them as best I can as we go along, with the knowledge that in an hour and 5 minutes, we're either crashing the bar mitzvah party or we're going home. So I entitled this study session, Hope After October 7th. And if you look up the word for hope in Hebrew, tikva or kava or kiva, I love that it doesn't have an exact translation. Nothing ever does. To hope, to trust, to expect, and to await. And those are really different things. Very, very different things. Sometimes we interchange those words in a colloquial sense, but the hope for something, for me, is a kind of a lofty aspiration, maybe a kind of confidence. To trust is, it's coming. I trust, that's it. It's like a belief, a faith. To expect maybe is a little more hubristic, a little more chutzpahdik. I just expect. The Mashiach is coming. I expect the Mashiach. And to await is another way of expecting, but to be patiently hoping and biding one's time with the confidence that it's coming. So I just put those various translations of the Hebrew word there so that you can play with them in different aspects as to what it is that we think we're feeling at this moment, or what's the best that we can aspire for in this moment. Is it just that we're hoping for a good outcome? Is it that we trust that there will be a good outcome? Is it that we expect there to be a good outcome? Maybe that kind of expectation can sometimes not place us in a good place. I think that many in Israeli society over time will come to explore the notion of what they expected from the IDF and from security forces and from our defense apparatus on October 6th, and maybe too much of that kind of expectation is not ideal, or just to await, to be patient. Starting 1 month before Rosh Hashanah, we begin to say every single day a beautiful psalm from the Bible, Psalm 27. And Psalm 27, Adonai Ori Vishi. Remember that melody that Cantor Janine sings so beautifully? Adonai Ori Vishi Mira. Anyone remember it? It's from Craig Talman. The last line of that, so we start saying that 1 month before Rosh Hashanah, and it goes all the way through Yom Kippur, and it goes all the way through Sukkot. And what's interesting, not interesting, but maybe devastating, I guess. According to the liturgical calendar, we stop saying this psalm on October 7th. It's when it stops. Simchas Torah Shmini Atzeret are the last days where we say Psalm 27. It's about 52 days, depending on your tradition. It could be 50 days, but we stopped saying it. But I don't want you to go away from our discussion tonight thinking October 7th killed hope, because we stopped saying this line about hope on October 7th. I like to believe that it's the opposite. But here's what the psalm says, and I gave you 3 different translations. Kaveh el Adonai, chazak v'ametz libecha v'kaveh el Adonai. So one translation from the Jewish Publication Society, JPS, look to the Lord. Be strong and of good courage, O look to the Lord. Or hope in Adonai. Be strong, take courage, and hope in Adonai. That's from the Sim Shalom Sidur. Or trust in the Lord and be strong. Take courage and hope in the Lord. I'm not exactly sure why JPS calls it look. I'll have to dig more deeply if that's a question that you have. But I think in generally we translate it as hope or trust. I just gave you 2 different Sidurim. I have 30 more in my office. We can check how they all translate it, but I wanted you to know that look to the Lord is not the definitive translation, even though that we use JPS as the definitive translation from the Torah. Elsewhere in Psalms, there's another opportunity for this concept of hope to arise. Kaveh el Adonai ushmor darko, hope in Adonai, or alternatively, look to the Lord and keep to his way, and he will raise you high that you may inherit the land. When the wicked are cut off, you shall see it. Now in Lamentations is the text from the Bible that speaks about the destruction of the first temple, right? So you can imagine the devastation of the people at that time. And here's a verse from there. The Lord is good to those who trust in him, to the one who seeks him. It is good to wait patiently till rescue comes from the Lord. Just throwing out a couple of biblical texts here. We're going to continue with one from the Talmud. Here's some more encouraging texts about being hopeful. I'm curious as to how they theologically sit with you. So this is just 2 pages of text, then we're going to dive into some music. Here's from Talmud Brachot. Rabbi Chama, son of Rabbi Hanina, said, a person who prayed and saw that he was not answered should pray again. As it is stated, and here's the quote from Psalm 27, hope in the Lord, strengthen yourself, let your heart take courage, and hope in the Lord. See how it says hope in the Lord twice? In the beginning of the phrase that we say before Rosh Hashanah and through the high holidays, and again at the end. So one should turn to God with hope, and if necessary, turn to God again with hope. Here's a text from Psalms for the leader, a Psalm of David. I put my hope in the Lord. He inclined toward me and heeded my cry. He lifted me out of the miry pit, the slimy clay. That makes me think of the tunnels in Gaza. And set my feet on a rock, steadied my legs. He put a new song into my mouth, a hymn to our God. May many see it and stand in awe and trust in the Lord. Happy is the man who makes the Lord his trust, who turns not to the arrogant or to followers of falsehood. Now, I included that text because it's referenced later on. Now we're on page 2. From the Midrash Tehillim to the conductor, I have hoped. I think the 3:25-26 is referring to something else, sorry. I have hoped, O Lord, this is what the verse says, and it shall be said in that day, lo, this is our God, we have waited for him, and he will save us. The only thing that Israel has in their hand is hope, so that they may be redeemed in reward for their waiting. We are patient, or maybe not so patient. But as a people and as a nation, our history seems to suggest that we have been patient. Here's more of hope from Lamentations, one of our darker, more solemn texts. I thought my strength and hope had perished before the Lord. Maybe we can resonate with these texts. I thought my strength and hope had perished before the Lord. To recall my distress and my misery was wormwood and poison. Whenever I thought of them, I was bowed low. But this do I call to mind, therefore I have hope. The kindness of the Lord has not ended. His mercies are not spent. They are renewed every morning. Ample is your grace. The Lord is my portion, I say with full heart. Therefore will I hope in him. And the last text I want to share is just a beautiful midrash about Moses, who, as we know, doesn't make it to the promised land. So I'm going to just read through this text, and then I want to see if anyone has any questions or insights about just the text that we've shared about hope, and then I want to dive into some music. So then the Lord said to Moses, behold, the days are drawing near for you to die. How old does Moses get to be? 120. How old are we all going to get to be? Are you hoping for it? Are you trusting in it? Are you waiting for it? Are you expecting it? Who said all the above? Okay. So you passed on the hot dogs then when I came in here earlier, because you're planning to make it to 120. Good move. So behold, the days are drawing near for you to die. So he's probably 119 and 3/4. This text is related to Proverbs 11. Behold, shall a righteous one be recompensed on earth? Can a righteous one die? With reference to whom is this text spoken? It speaks of none other than Moses the righteous, for there is no one like him, not among the prophets and not among the sages. So here is the Holy One, blessed be God, testifying concerning him after his death. Never again did there arise in Israel a prophet like Moses. Still, he did not have the power to save himself from death, all the more so other people. And David therefore said, now, when it says David therefore said, meaning, let me share with you this text from the Bible ascribed traditionally in authorship to King David. For we are sojourners before you, and transients like all our ancestors. Our days on the earth are like a shadow, and there is no hope. That's from Chronicles. How often do you guys read Chronicles? I'm told that you should read it right before bed, that it's better than Ambien. That's what I'm told. Okay, go for it. But is it not written in Psalms? Remember we looked at Psalm 37 earlier. Hope in the Lord and keep his way, and he will raise you up to inherit the land. So why does this text say in Chronicles there is no hope? And David said, meaning the text, master of the world, in all circumstances, a person has hope. If one is poor, he hopes to become rich. If he is feeble, he hopes until he becomes strong. If he is sick, he hopes until he is healed. If he is confined in prison, he hopes until they free him. On the day of death, however, he has no hope. As see here that the Holy One, blessed be God, spoke with Moses face to face, but he was still not able to save himself from death. Any questions or even comments about some of the texts that we explored? Resonate? Inspiring? Does that make you feel more hopeful, less hopeful, not helpful? Ron?
I think that initially you have to have a positive outlook. Great, you have hope. But if you sit on your hands and hope, you're not going to get what you are hoping for. And we know that our religion teaches us hope is not enough. You have to act. And that's the problem that I find with all of what we read about hope. Because if we wait for God to make the difference, it's not going to happen. We have to make the difference ourselves. And that's part of the challenge. But Jews brought hope to the world, so I don't deny the importance.
So for you, if I'm understanding your comment, which I appreciate, the hope is the it's just the switch that turns on the machine, but the machine, which is us, we have to then act. If you don't have hope, there's no gas in the tank at all. I'm mixing metaphors, but that's how I understood your comment. Appreciate it. Michelle.
So now I know why Ron and I are such good friends, because we do share a similar philosophy. And I do believe that we're put on this earth to be partners with God. To kunalam, we're God's messengers. And in order to be a good messenger, we have to take actions to make the world a better place, because hope is not enough. And so that's what was missing for me in the texts. And I just wanted to say that when I put in the actions, and I know that I'm making a difference, then yes, my hope, it's not an expectation, it's just my attitude improves because I'm doing something about it and not just sitting back. For example, with Israel in particular, what I have heard about and have become part of, and if anyone wants to, it's a huge movement now, but if anyone wants to do it, I can just say, ask at the office for Michelle from Indiana, and they'll give you my number. There's a group that was started by a bunch of boys at yeshiva called Letters to the Nation. And what we do is every couple of days, I get an update about soldiers who have fallen in Israel. And I then write an email back to, not to the family directly, but back to Letters to the Nation. And these boys at the yeshiva actually take these letters and hand deliver them to the families that Shiva calls. And just last night, when I was doing my next batch, we were getting in return letters from parents or spouses who were receiving these letters, thanking us for the letters and letting them feel that we are connected. And it makes sense and how much difference it made. And I actually then connected one letter to a lady who said she wanted to start a PTSD center, and I go, oh, there's already somebody doing that. They spoke at our synagogue, and I'm connecting them with, Gila, Rockland.
So
It's the actions that matter.
Thank you very much, Michelle. One of my takeaways, though, is to ask the question, which you don't have to answer, is it's like the chicken and the egg. Which comes first? Do we do things and then we feel more hopeful, or is it that do we need to first feel slightly more hopeful in order for us to have the motivation or the energy to then go do something, or is it just a cycle that works? We can.
The action, because I was so devastated. Exactly.
So the action helped you feel better, not the other way around.
Exactly.
Okay.
I had to take the action to get the hope.
Thank you.
So I'm looking at the Psalm 27.
Remind us all your name?
Terry.
Okay, Terry.
Thanks. I'm looking at Psalm 27 and the three different choices, and my choice would be the third one, which is a combination of trust and hope. And to me, the action part, as the other people were just mentioning, to me that's the trust part. Do what you have to do to overcome all obstacles. Get into action. Do it. And that is saying, I trust you, Lord, that what I'm about to do and what I am doing is the right thing. I am hoping that that is the right thing. So you got the trust and the hope combined.
And that's probably why you come to our synagogue, because that translation is from the Siddur that we use every Shabbat. So Stan, last one. Yes, you still.
So I think that the concept of hope is something that maybe perhaps derives from the element of the fact that Hashem created this world, with mankind of the world, but didn't complete everything, left a little sohu babohu, and left it for mankind to go and seek better things, trying to cure diseases, trying to do this, trying to do that. And I guess from that, the word hope is integral
to that notion, because if you take as a given that God left it for mankind to help to make better things, you have to have hope along with action. And so I think I trace it back to that concept, with mankind being tasked with doing that stuff.
Going all the way back to the Garden of Eden. I appreciate that, Sam. Thank you very much. So we haven't acknowledged the elephant in the room, which of course is the fact that our homeland's national anthem is aptly titled, greatest title, I think, of any national anthem. Man, I'm a big fan of the Star Spangled Banner, but come on, it's like, you can't say that fast 5 times. Hatikva I can say, all day long, but Star Spangled Banner, it's like a tongue twister. The hope. So let's dive in a little bit to the origin of this anthem. It's fascinating. I really enjoyed doing some of the research. And what you're looking at on page 3, on the right, is an image of the original handwritten poem. So let's just take a look at what it says, and then let's explore the origin of this anthem. And then my hope is also to make sure that we get to experience 2 songs that have been written since October 7th that have become very popular in Israel, and I think you'll see why. As long as the heart within, we all know Hatikva, and maybe at the end we'll sing it together, so you don't need me to go through the Hebrew text. But I just want to say very slowly what it means, because we sing it all the time. For some of us, if you're like me, we get a little verklempt almost every time we sing it. And here's what it means. As long as the heart within the Jewish soul yearns forward toward the east, and eye looks to Zion, our hope is not yet lost. Our hope is 2,000 years old, to be a free people in our land, the land of Zion and Jerusalem. Just before you turn on the text, when do you think Hatikva became officially the national anthem of the state of Israel? Did you read the whole text already? Okay. All right, so you read it. I was shocked. Were you also shocked to read that? Okay, thank you. I'm not crazy. 1897, I'm not going to read through, maybe I'll read a little bit through it, but this is from an article from My Jewish Learning. 1897, the first Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland. So before there was Art Basel in Miami, there was the first Zionist Congress in actual Basel, Switzerland. They joined and they sang Hatikva. It was already known at the time. It didn't become the anthem until 2004. I'm in the next paragraph. It's originally a 9-stanza Hebrew poem entitled Tikvatenu, and its author, a colorful 19th century Hebrew poet, Naftali Hertz Imber, 1856 to 1909, from a town that I cannot pronounce. Anyone? You can't pronounce it either? We have enough text for everybody? Everyone has text? We got enough? Okay. So, Zlakov? Okay. To be determined. A town in Austria-Hungarian Galicia. He was inspired by early Zionist movements, and he wrote the poem originally in 1878 while living in Romania. He wandered around, came to settle in Palestine in 1882. Turn the page. By the time he leaves Palestine in 1888, so remember, keep that in number 1897, the first Zionist Congress doesn't happen until 1897. In 1888, his poem had become a song, soon renamed Hatikva, Hebrew for the hope. So Tikvatenu means our hope, Hatikva means the hope. The original poem is called Our Hope. So early Zionist pioneers, and now the melody that was originally ascribed to Hatikva came from this song, Cart and Oxen, a Moldavian folk song, and I have no idea how to pronounce this, Karul Kuboy. Joe's going to play it for us now. This is that song.
În ce electricitate, căi ferate și vapori, încă nu erau aflate, mergeau toate fără zor. Căci bătrânii erau moi, își mânau caruri cu voi, păișcea, 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 păișcea. Azi zburăm pe căi ferate, prin vagoane, unde sate sosind cu cafetele.
The English is at the bottom.
Și degerați, decât cu atâtea nevoi, mai bine cu
It's better to lead an ox-driven cart.
păișcea, 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 păișcea.
Cart and oxen. Sound familiar? So I'll tell you another truth. Yeah, I don't know. This is yeah. We could stop the Moldavian folk song playlist. So, true story. If you may recall, on Rosh Hashanah, I spoke about silence, and it's not my comfort zone. This goes way back. I was in college, and I had CDs. Folks remember CDs? Cassette tapes? 8 tracks? Vinyl? Did you keep your vinyl? You're very smart. You expected or trusted that one day they would be worth something, and you were right. The cassettes, not so much. Chuck those. So I'm in college, and I'm trying to focus on whatever study, paper, pre-med thing that I was doing. And in order for me to do that, I had to play music, classical music, help me focus, concentrate, keep out the noise in the dorm, and let me try to get my work done. And I had 10 CDs of like, I don't know, centuries of classical music, and I would just play them, all mixes with different composers from different eras. And I remember once I was playing it, and I was thinking to myself, wow, that sounds really, really familiar. So this is the song that I heard, which is another, as you'll soon hear, an influence for the melody of Hatikva. A little bit louder, Jason. it's good, but it's 14 minutes. You can listen to it at home. It came out 1874, Czech composer Bedřich Smetana's Moldau, Moldau. Section in his 1874 symphonic tone poem Mavlast. So 1874, that melody comes out. By 1888, so 14 years later, Hatikva is already coming to a melody inspired both by that first Romanian folk song and this one. And there are some objections to Hatikva being used in a formal way, both as you can read earlier on your own. Herzl was not a fan of the poet himself because he was a bit bohemian. And also they were concerned that this melody had other roots. But ultimately it was accepted. And I love the fact that in the bottom of page 4, you can see that the religious Zionists didn't like the text because it is primarily secular in its lyrics and doesn't mention God. The socialist Zionists didn't like it because it has some messianic overtones, owing to the reference of an ancient biblical promise. And cultural Zionists didn't like it because the minor key melody was gloomy and depressing. And this is Israel, the new, yes?
What I like about the Moldau is that, like the river that is being described in music, it starts out as a trickle, and it flows, and it grows, and it grows to a massive river flowing into the sea.
So that is, in your mind, a metaphor for what?
The Jewish people.
The Jewish people. We start with a trickle, going all the way back to our origin story, good. Or it could be also a sign of things for us, meaning we also have had our numbers made smaller by external forces, and we've needed to harness that small seed, right? When even in the Bible's time, when they talk about us being dispersed and scattered, that's that seed, that small seed remnant that God willing will sprout and grow and flourish. I love that aspect of it. So now I'm on page 5. In 1933, so it's sung around. People are debating if they like it, if they don't like it, if the words are appropriate or not appropriate, too religious, too secular, is the melody original enough? 1933, by the 18th Zionist Congress, the song officially adopted as the movement's anthem together with the blue and white flag, which is a whole other class that can be had about the different flags that were proposed for the state of Israel. And in the 1940s, many Jews in Europe defiantly sung this song as a gesture of collective hope and spiritual resistance in the face of the Nazi Holocaust and Stalinist terror. But interestingly enough, probably because of the differences of opinion that were with respect to the anthem, in 1948 it was not adopted officially, even though it was promoted as the de facto national anthem. We also have a 20% minority, which I think was more of a discussion from October 6th than before, as to what does it mean for every citizen of Israel to talk about a 2,000-year dream when there are people who live there who may not have had a 2,000-year dream to return to Israel because they're not part of the Jewish people, but nonetheless citizens of Israel. I think that that discussion is maybe one for another time, another era. But it is now obviously beloved, and in 2004, over 100 years later, it was finally adopted. I don't know what happened in 2004 that finally allowed Hatikva to become official, but I was so shocked to read that. So, Od lo avda tikvatenu. What does that mean? Our hope is not lost yet. That comes from Ezekiel. Ezekiel famously has a vision in the Bible of a valley of dry bones, and these bones in his vision take on flesh and muscles and blood and skin and suddenly come back to life. He has this vision. And of course, the metaphors, and we're talking about metaphors and music and poetry and The Bible has many metaphors as well. This is a metaphor for the Jewish people who had been decimated. And God is saying to the prophet Ezekiel, these bones are going to rise again. Just as the bones rose again, the Jewish people are going to return to life, to strength, to stand up. So here's what's fascinating. Let's look at the actual text from the book of Ezekiel and this phrase about lost hope. Who says it and what is meant by it? Vayomer Eli, Ben Adam, ha'atzamot ha'ele kol Beit Yisrael hema, hine omrim, yovshu atzmoteinu, ve'avda tikvatenu, nigzarnu lanu. So then he said to me, then God said to me, this is Ezekiel talking, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, the bones say, our bones are dried up, ve'avda tikvatenu, and our hope is lost, we are clean cut off. So I want to just paint this because it's very, very important to appreciate what the original poet, Imber, does with this biblical verse. I remember Dr. Barone, who used to be our executive vice president for many, many years, used to talk so much about how they learned Bible in school and how so much of life in general is made so much better and more clear if you know your Bible well. So the same thing, not just for Jews, but for anyone, I think. So Ezekiel is in this valley of bones. God is telling him this is the analogy, they are the Jewish people, and the bones themselves are saying we've lost our hope. And yet they come back to life, and this comment of having lost our hope represents Israel's lack of faith, even in the presence of the great miracle they experienced. So how are the bones talking? They've already come back to life. And yet they're saying, we lost hope. We have no hope. Our hope is lost. And Imber takes that and says, no, our hope is not lost. Od lo avda tikvatenu. And what's fascinating about so many aspects of this, but one might imagine that taking this biblical prophecy of lost hope and turning it on its head and saying, no, our hope is not lost, of a vision of dry bones could have been and probably should have been written in 1946, in 1947, but it was written in the late 1800s. So whether or not he was referring to actual massacres that he was seeing where he lived in Europe, or whether it was just 2,000 years of being kicked around from country to country, from place to place. So he proffers a reference to the biblical text, but he turns the words of defeat into the words of courageous hope. And just because I wasn't sure if you've ever seen the full version of the original poem, Tikvatenu, I took the time to put it all onto one page, and so that you can read it all. It's beautiful. Trying to think if we have time to go through it. I'm thinking maybe not. It would be helpful for you if we read through it out loud. Would you like for us to do that, or should we move it along? Move it along. Okay, I'm getting the universal sign to move it along. Yes, question in the back.
Yeah, you really see, because it sounds like nothing else was about. You really see him use this Vavda Tikvatenu, that he knew Ezekiel, I'm trying to ask.
Oh, he knew Ezekiel?
Did he know, the text?
I think there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Avda Tikvatenu lo Avda. Yes, I don't know for sure, but I think most people believe this was not a unknown. The dry bones reference, I guess we could probably prioritize it. What are the most well-known Bible stories that people know, if you're just off the street? Samson and Delilah, David and Goliath, I don't know. Sack binding of Isaac. I think this was a biblical text that may have been known, or also may not have been that obscure for Jews to have studied Bible regardless. But it's interesting, and most of what I've read believe that it comes from there. Other questions about a little the origin of Hatikva? So you can read the original one on your own. Begins with Od Lo Avda Tikvatenu. So this is, I'm going to share two songs that get me verklempt, but also inspire me. I'm curious if they do the same for you. I want to first go over the text. Like, well, let's pretend we're all preparing for a bar mitzvah. Right? So before we sing, we got to know what we're saying. So we're going to do the same thing. So it's called Am Echad, and this song is written by Ariel Zuriev, and it references a lot of the elements that Israel was experiencing and feeling after October 7th. So, Lalo milim, lalo tchushot. There's no words, no feelings. There is no escape from thoughts. There is an unexplained terror here. How to sing when a phase is broken. Ech sharim kishalev nishbar. Sorry, that's a typo. How can you sing when your heart is broken? Phase is heart. I'm here in front of the news, does not digest the tears. If we are a chosen people, how a cruel fate was carved. And there are no answers. Heavy fog has settled now. Who do you turn to? The soul is wounded in battle. Hear, O Israel, Shema Yisrael, Omrim Yachdav, we say together, Od lo avda tikvatenu, our hope is not yet lost, to be free in our country, liot chofshi be'artzenu. You hear some of the references poetically to Hatikva. Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel, we are one people. So he's addressing the shock, the initial shock, where just you don't know what you're feeling. He's addressing also that initial spirit of unity. You could explore with Brian Roth's class on Friday as to whether or not, I don't know if that's his topic for this week, or I think it's China or something. Ukraine, sorry. So, but this notion of unity was something that everyone felt initially, hoping that it will remain. Od lo avda tikvatenu, again, refrain of the chorus. The horrors cannot be described in words. The soul is wounded. We just wanted to dance, referring to the Nova Festival. Don't want to see crying mothers anymore. What have we asked? To live quietly. We have no other country. A famous reference to, it's a song, we have no other country. So there's a lot of other references being pulled in this song that are triggering for Israelis, very specific points of reference, very specific points of memory, conceptual points. We have no other place to go. We can visit Miami, but that's our home. Even if the ground here is on fire. So enough of division, enough of hatred. Who do you think the song is referring to? Internally. Division and hatred internally. Sinat chinam. They look at us and take advantage of a weakness. This is the time to love and spread hope. Lift your head. Smile back. Because we are all brothers, not only in war. The people of Israel are the same family. Am Yisrael zo ota mishpacha. We will win, and there are no doubts. In history, we have won all the battles. And all the haters, come on by. Meaning, like, that's not a good English translation. Hebrew, yalabai means more like, get out of my face. Sorry. That's right? Is that a fair translation of yalabai? Get out of my face. So, we will win, and there are no doubts. In history, we have won all the battles, and all the haters, get out of here, get out of my face. Israel lives, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Echad, we are one, Kulanu Am Echad. Don't turn the page. We're going to now enjoy the song, appreciate the song, be inspired by the song. This song is very popular in Israel, and I have a whole playlist that Rabbi Guido put together. I forget what the occasion was. It was the first, we had a special Shabbat where we welcomed, it was I think 8 displaced Israeli families with young kids who had come out of Israel just to put their kids in a school. Remember, the schools were all closed, and we did a special Shabbat dinner just for them, and we wanted to play some, was it a Shabbat dinner or a Saturday night? I don't even remember. But we wanted some music playing in the background, and we struggled, what kind of music can we play that's Israeli, but our Israeli stuff is all like boom, boom, party, party music. And so we tried to find some solemn music that was either music that had just come out, and this was on that playlist, and when it came to the song, I just played it on repeat. So let's listen to Am Echad. I will try to find out. After October 7th. Of course. A little bit louder. Pause it again. Let's go back to the beginning. So, just, pause 1 second. So, if you're on Spotify or Apple Music and you get this song, you're not going to hear this opening phrase. This is a video comprised of some scenes post October 7th. And right at the very beginning, you have to listen. You're going to hear people singing Od lo avda tikvatenu. Our hope is not yet lost. The twisting of Ezekiel's dry bones vision, the reference to that original poem, Tikvatenu, which became a popular Zionist song, and then in 2004, the official national anthem of the State of Israel. So listen for the Od lo avda tikvatenu chanting, I think by soldiers, and then the song begins.
ללא מילים, ללא תחושות, אין מנוס ממחשבות, יש פה קרע לא מוסבר, איך שרים כשלב נשבר, אני פה מול החדשות, לא מעכל את הדמעות, אם אנחנו הנבחר, איך נחרד גורל אכזר, ואין תשובות, ערפל כבד נחת עכשיו, למי פונים? הנשמה פצועה בקרב, שמע ישראל אומרים יחדיו, עוד לא עבדה תקוותנו להיות חופשי בארצנו, שמע ישראל כולנו עם אחד, עוד לא עבדה תקוותנו להיות חופשי בארצנו, שמע ישראל כולנו עם אחד. אי אפשר לתאר במילים את הזוועות, הנפש פצועה, רק רצינו לרקוד, לא רוצים עוד לראות אמהות שבוכות, מה כבר ביקשנו בשקט לחיות, אין לנו ארץ אחרת, גם אם האדמה פה בוערת, אז די לפילוג, די לשנאה, מסתכלים עלינו, מנצלים את החולשה, זה הזמן לאהוב, להפיץ את התקווה, להרים את הראש, לחייך חזרה, כי כולנו אחים לא רק במלחמה, עם ישראל זה אותה משפחה, אנחנו ננצח אין פה ספקות, בהיסטוריה ניצחנו בכל הקרבות, כל השונאים יאללה ביי, עם ישראל חי.
proclaimed every time I hear it. Ricky.
Is that on YouTube or where do you find that?
It's only on my private personal video, and no one else can ever listen to it ever anywhere in the world. Yes, it's on YouTube, and the link is, I don't know, email me, or we'll figure out a way to get these links. I'd be happy to share it. I wanted to find the one that had the English lyrics on it, so it's both on YouTube, the video, which is very powerful. We had that video on our synagogue's website for about a month, just right there on the homepage. You opened up atjc.org, and so you may have seen it before. Powerful, huh? But see, one of the things that I'm experiencing, and this may not be for everyone, this may not be everyone's reaction, but I get at the same time, upset, sad, concerned, inspired, hopeful, determined, at the same time. And, yes, Ms. Hill.
Say about losing hope. Remember that song, I think we saying, we are means of this day, and ours is summer.
Which is what? Because I don't speak Yiddish?
And everything is closed. Where can I go?
Yes.
And then there's the virus saying, Zulish came up on the yesterday, never say, now this is your last.
Thank you, Ms. Adele. She's quoting the partisan song in Yiddish, Never Say That This Is the End, which is a hopeful song from another very, very difficult era, if not the most difficult era. So I want to make sure we have time for the next song. Any other questions, briefly, or reactions to this? Yes?
I want to remark that in the song that we have just listened to, we can listen like different reasons in the same song.
Yes.
Because every reason is going with the letter, with the words.
Yes.
So he changed on purpose.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
and you mark like the determination, the hope, they have different reasons.
Yes. Yes. It's very powerful. Okay, next one that is a little more uppity. Let's just take a look at it. It's slightly less poetic, more rah-rah, entitled Am Yisrael Chai. And the origin of Am Yisrael Chai, how it became a phrase that we use. Anyone know? Okay, well, you're going to learn tonight, but not right now. I'm just going to read through the lyrics. The sun will rise soon. We will know better days than these. The heart fights with worries. Everyone will return home. We will wait for them downstairs. I wish we had good news. Because the eternal people are never afraid, even when it's hard to see. Everyone is together. No one here is alone. May the wars burn. The nation of Israel lives. Am Yisrael Chai. If we don't forget to always be united. Am Yisrael Chai. Ups and downs, even in the most difficult hours. The Kadosh Baruch Hu protects us. So who can prevail over us is a better way of putting that. Who can prevail over us? Because we no longer ein lanu od midina. We have no other country. Sorry, I will fix this translation. Forgive me. I was just typing it quickly. So the same reference, both songs. We have no other country. Make peace, our sons. Take care of our children because the faith was not lost. Lo ki lo avda ha'emunah. Oh, my land is our inheritance. Our spirit will not fall now around iron of swords. That's the name of the war right now that Israel is prosecuted in Gaza. Chavot Barzel. And a dove will spread its wings. The hope is 2,000 years old. We will go out to sing in the streets because the eternal people are never afraid, even if it's hard to see. Everyone is together. No one is ever alone. We will sing in the streets. Okay, Am Yisrael Chai by Eyal Golan.
בקרוב תזרח השמש, נדע ימים יפים מאלה. הלב נלחם בדאגות, כולם יחזרו הביתה, נחכה להם למטה, הלוואי נדע בשורות טובות. כי עם הנצח לעולם לא מפחד, אפילו כשקשה לראות. כולם ביחד, אף אחד פה לא בודד, שישרפו על מלחמות. עם ישראל חי, אם לא נשכח תמיד להיות מאוחדים. עם ישראל חי, בעליות בירידות גם בשעות הכי קשות. הקדוש ברוך הוא שומר עלינו, אז מי יכול עלינו? כי אין לנו עוד מדינה. תעשה שלום בינינו, שמור על ילדינו, כי לא עבדה אמונה. עם ישראל חי, עם ישראל חי. אור ארצי נחלתנו, לא תיפול כעת רוחנו, מסביב ברזל של חרבות. ויונה תפרוס כנפיים, התקווה בת שנות 2000, עוד נצא לשיר ברחובות. כי עם הנצח לעולם לא מפחד, אפילו כשקשה לראות. כולם ביחד, אף אחד פה לא בודד, שישרפו המלחמות. עם ישראל חי, אם לא נשכח תמיד להיות מאוחדים. עם ישראל חי, בעליות בירידות גם בשעות הכי קשות. הקדוש ברוך הוא שומר עלינו, אז מי יכול עלינו? כי אין לנו עוד מדינה. תעשה שלום בינינו, שמור על ילדינו, כי לא עבדה אמונה. הקדוש ברוך הוא שומר עלינו, אז מי יכול עלינו? כי אין לנו עוד מדינה. תעשה שלום בינינו, שמור על ילדינו, כי לא עבדה אמונה. עם ישראל חי, כי עם ישראל חי.
Thank you, Joseph. So, which song did you like better? This one? How many like the first one? Raise your hand. How many like the second one? All right, now start fighting with each other, and now we'll know, we're actually Jews. I'm just kidding. So, in the interest of time, by the way, if you just take this source sheet home and Google it, you'll find these songs either on your favorite streaming services that you have subscribed to or YouTube. But I want you to hear, and I'm glad Ms. Adele shared with us the Partisan song, because there is a recording which you may have heard at some point of Hatikva being sung after liberation at Bergen-Belsen. And at the end of this singing, the broadcaster just shouts out, Am Yisrael Chai. Literally meaning, like, you might think that they killed every one of us, but Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel are still alive. And what we understand is that that was the moment that that phrase became the ubiquitous phrase that it is for us today. We say it all the time, Am Yisrael Chai. It's like, but it comes from this recording of the singing of the anthem, the Zionist anthem, not yet the official one. This is 1940 I think the date in a second, I think will become clear, singing the song, The Hope. And you'll hear the phrasing is different because it's not exactly the version of Hatikva that we have today. So this is going to be the last element. We'll wrap up after that. And if you have questions, come talk to me, but I have to change my El Al ticket back to what it was. I literally just moved it off of Sunday because I thought I wasn't going, and now I'm going, so I got to take care of that. Please rise.
Remarkable recording was made in the German concentration camp of Bergen-Belsen. Survivors of singing Hatikva at Shabbat services on April 20th, 1945.
The day I reached Belsen concentration camp, the 5th day of liberation, was a Friday, the day before the Jewish Sabbath. Around us lay the corpses that there had not been time to clear away even after 5 days. People were still lying down and dying in broad daylight in front of our eyes. This was the background to this open-air Jewish service. These people knew they were being recorded. They wanted the world to hear their voice. They made a tremendous effort, which quite exhausted them.
Yisrael Chai, the children of Israel still liveth.
Thank you, everyone. Questions, comments, you're free to come speak to me privately. If you need to go, have to go, want to go, please feel free, and thank you all. Class is officially dismissed.
I want to thank you.
Yes.